Hi, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. I'm Sophie and today's video is going to be me talking you through the 10 books that I want to prioritise and hopefully read by the end of this year. So the books that we're going to be talking about are these in this stack here. So I think I'm a little bit late to this trend. I think a lot of people did this in October, but I'm just getting to it now. So hopefully I haven't missed the boat on this. So let's get right into it. So in all honesty, I don't think that I'm going to be able to manage these books. This is just me being very hopeful. At the moment, I'm having a little bit of a reading slump. So I'm still reading, but not as much as I have been. So I already have quite a large November TBR, which if you want to see what I'm reading in November, you can check that video out. I'll link it here. So I am already a bit overwhelmed with books that I want to read, but I think it's still good to have this 10 before the end. So these are books that I can prioritise. So first up, we have The Executioners 3 by Susan Denard. So earlier in the year, I read The Illuminaries by Susan Denard, and I love that series so much. I gave it 5 stars. So I'm hoping for good things from this. So this seems to be like a kind of high school murder mystery with spooky stuff going on. So yeah, I think this is like a small town murder mystery, but it is also supernatural. So we follow our main character, Freddie, who is convinced she hears shrieks coming from the woods, but it turns out that it's just partying, and she ends up getting half the rival high school arrested. But then the next day, a body is found. So Freddie is then convinced that she was right and she did hear shrieks coming from the woods. But the local sheriff is calling it suicide. So now Freddie sets out to prove that there is a murderer at large. So yeah, I'm hoping this will be very similar to The Illuminaries and hopefully will be just as good. And then I have Bride by Ali Hazelwood. So this will be my first ever Ali Hazelwood book. So I've heard a lot about her. I'm not really into the romance genre so much, so I haven't read anything by her. But this one is her first kind of supernatural romance, so I was a little bit more interested to pick this up. So all I know about this one is we have vampires and werewolves, and as with a lot of this genre, the vampires and the werewolves are mortal enemies. But we follow Misery, who is the daughter of the vampire councilman, and she has been called upon to uphold a long-standing alliance between the vampires and the werewolves. So she, as a vampire, must marry into the wolf pack to keep this alliance going. But yeah, I am very much into vampire and werewolf stories, so I'm hoping that this will be quite a easy read, a bit lighter than maybe the normal vampire books I read. I am a sucker for anything vampire or werewolf related, as you may know by now. So I'm really excited to read this one. And then I have Among the Burning Flowers by Samantha Shannon. So this is the sequel to A Day of Fallen Night and the prequel to The Priory of the Orange Tree. So earlier in the year I read A Day of Fallen Night, so I'm hoping to pick this one up. Now, A Day of Fallen Night was a massive tome, but this is a very short kind of novella. So I think this will go a lot quicker, and I think I should be able to fit it in before the end of the year. So this is very much an epic fantasy. We have dragons and long lineages of royalty. In A Day of Fallen Night, we switch between a lot of different parts of the world and focus on a lot of different characters. I think this one is following a smaller set of characters and will be set during a smaller time frame than the other books, I think. But I do love the way that Samantha Shannon writes. And I did find A Day of Fallen Night quite easy to read, despite it being so long. It's just there is quite a complex world and there's a lot of information to take in that book. So I think this will be a little bit easier to read because it's shorter, and also it's following, I think, a smaller group of characters. So it will be easier to keep track. But yeah, I'm hoping to read this, and then at some point I would like to read The Priory of the Orange Tree. So then I have a couple of Greek myth retellings that I'm excited to read. I do love me a good mythology retelling, especially from a feminist perspective. So we have Medusa by Rosie Hewlett. So I have read Medea by this author and absolutely loved it. So I am hoping that this will be equally as good. I have read a couple of Medusa retellings over the last few years, and yeah, I'm really excited to get to this one. And this is just such a stunning edition with the sprayed edges. So this is basically a retelling of Medusa's story. So I'm hoping for great things from this. And then we have No Friend to This House by Natalie Haynes. So this is a retelling of Jason and the Argonauts, and specifically focused on Medea. So as I said, I read Medea by Rosie Hewlett and loved it. And I also read Atalanta by Jennifer Saint, which is also a retelling of Jason and the Argonauts from Atalanta's perspective. And I really loved that. So I really do like the story, and Medea in particular is a character that I'm really interested in and want to read a lot more stories about. So I'm excited to get to this one. And Natalie Haynes really knows her stuff. She is a classicist and has a great wealth of knowledge about Greek mythology and these characters. And she always does a very good job of these retellings. So I read Stone Blind, which is a Medusa telling, back in September, and that was also 5 stars. I tend to rate Greek mythology retellings very highly, as I really enjoy them. So hoping that this won't be any different. Next, I have a book by an author that is slowly becoming one of my auto-buy authors and one of my favourites, and this is Adrienne Young. So this is The Unmaking of June Farrow. So I have read Spells for Forgetting and A Sea of Unspoken Things by this author. I love Adrienne Young's writing style. I like how she brings atmosphere to her novels, and I love the characters. And she always has some kind of mystery woven through the plot. The plot tends to take a lot of twists and turns as you find out what exactly happened. So based on the books that I've read by her already, she tends to have like a small town setting. She has this mystery that kind of drove these characters apart from each other who were once close, and there's always somebody coming back to the small town, and they end up discovering a lot of mystery. And she is great at writing all of the twists and turns, so you're never really sure what is the truth until right at the end. So I have to confess that I actually do not have any idea what this book is about. I bought it just because I love this author so much, and I'm sure that I will enjoy it. So yeah, it looks like it's again set in a small town, so a small mountain town of Jasper in North Carolina. And June Farrow is waiting for fate to find her. So the Farrow women are known for their thriving flower farm and the mysterious curse that has haunted them for generations. So I think this will be very similar to the other 2 books that I've read by her. So I can't wait to get to this. I was also really lucky to find this on Vinted. So back when FairyLoot first announced this, I was at the point where I was thinking I need to start reading books by authors before I buy new ones from them, and I hadn't read anything by her yet. But it was a big mistake. I should have just ordered it because, yeah, I love this author so much. So I'm so happy I managed to find this special FairyLoot edition, as they're beautiful. So yeah, really the end pages are so gorgeous. And different ones in the back. So yeah, I'm so happy I found this. So then I have Never Ever After by Lynn Tan. So this came in a recent FairyLoot box. I'm really excited to read this, as I love this author. I love Daughter of the Moon Goddess. That's one of my favourite books as well. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. I will have to remind myself what it's about. Yeah, so this is a Chinese Cinderella retelling. But yeah, this is also such a pretty edition from FairyLoot. So yeah, Lynn Tan is also fast becoming one of my auto-buy authors. So next I have another FairyLoot edition, which I think came in the YA box. It must have been last year now, and this is The Rose Bargain by Sasha Peyton Smith. So again, I don't know a lot about this. All I know is that it's a Regency novel, but it's got fantasy. So I think, yeah, Bridgerton kind of meets fantasy. So I'm not really into Regency era novels. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to like this so much, but as it's kind of in the fantasy, I think I will probably enjoy it a lot more. So on the back it says, when one makes a fairy bargain, one must be prepared to pay the price. So I'm guessing that there's also fairies and magical elements to this. So I think that it will probably be quite an interesting read. Then I have Powerless by Lauren Roberts. So I've had this on my TBR for quite a while now, and I know that it's quite a popular read in the fantasy book community. So yeah, I don't really know a lot about it, but I've heard a lot of people talking about it, and I am keen to get to it as soon as possible so I can also finish the rest of that series as well. And there are some special edition novellas which are part of this series, which I'd like to get, but I'm not going to get them until I know that I like the series. But yeah, it's part of a fantasy trilogy, but I'll just read a quick bit of the synopsis to remind myself what it is about. So the elites have possessed powers for decades, gifted to them by the plague, while those born ordinary are just that, banished from the kingdom of Ilia and shunned from society. No one knows this better than Peyton Grey, an ordinary posing as a psychic to blend in with the elites. When she unsuspectingly saves one of Ilia's princes, Kai Azer, she's thrown into the purging trials, a brutal competition showcasing the elite's powers. So yeah, that sounds really good. I have heard a lot of people say it's very similar to the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard, which I've only read the first one. I didn't complete that series, so yeah, I guess I will find out when I read this if they are quite similar. But yeah, I did enjoy the Red Queen, so if it's anything like that, then I will probably enjoy it. And then finally, the last of my 10 before the end is a nice cozy witchy fantasy, and this is Uncharmed by Lucy Jane Wood. So I've read Rewitched earlier in September, and I was hoping to read this one this year. So this is set in the same world as Rewitched, and I think Belladonna Blackthorn does make a cameo somewhere in this. So we are following Annie, who runs a bakery. She's also a witch, but she is a very big perfectionist and she doesn't like anything out of place. But then she is approached by her coven to train a young witch called Maeve. But I think Maeve is very different from Annie and causes Annie a lot of stress in her pursuit of a perfectionist life. And we also have a guy called Hal, who is the owner of Annie and Maeve's temporary lodgings while Annie is training Maeve, and he is very unhappy that they are there and he doesn't want them to be there. But if this is anything like Rewitched, I'm expecting cozy vibes, found family, a little bit of romance, and there is also a cat, which features on the sprayed edges as well. So can't go wrong there. I do like to read my witchy books around the spooky season, but I think actually December might be a great month to pick this up in for some cozy vibes towards the end of the year. So yeah, that is my 10 books that I hope to read by the end of the year, which I am still trying to process because I swear this year literally just started, but hey, we're nearly at the end. So do let me know in the comments if you've read any of these, if there's any you think I should read as a priority, and also let me know what you hope to read by the end of this year. Thank you for watching, and please like this video if you enjoyed it, and do also subscribe to my channel for more of my content. And see you in the next one. Bye.